So I'm Yamin Khan. I'm the CEO of hVIVO. So thank you for your time for coming in and to listen to us jabber on about our precious companies. We're all wonderful in our own little ways. Can I get from show of hands, how many of you have heard of hVIVO or what we do? That's a few people there. That's good. Okay. This is the normal obligatory disclaimer. So hVIVO, so what we are is that we are a contract research organization, a CRO. What that means is we run clinical trials on behalf of biotech and pharmaceutical companies. The key difference between us and almost every other CRO in the world is we focus on human challenge trials. And they're very different to what you may have heard of with regards to what are typically called field-based trials. And I will come to the key aspects of human challenge trials in a few seconds. So hVIVO consists of two subsidiaries. One is hVIVO Services, located in London. We have a quarantine clinic as well as our corporate headquarters in East London in Whitechapel. Second subsidiary is called Venn Life Sciences. They're based in Breda, which is in south of Netherlands, as well as in Paris. And what hVIVO does is run the human challenge trials. And Venn Life Sciences, what they do is they provide early clinical development consulting services to the clients. Both subsidiaries work together to deliver the human challenge trials, but Venn Life Sciences also had its own standalone clients delivering the consulting services. I'm not going to go through the mission and the vision. I'm sure you can read it. It's very inspirational, I promise you. So why do we exist? So maybe I'll just go through what a traditional vaccine clinical trial looks like. So if you want to develop a new vaccine, you have to do lab testing, then you have to do animal testing, then you have to do human testing. The human testing has three major parts: phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Phase 1 is the first time you expose human beings to a drug. We don't do any phase 1, just so you know. So every trial we run is called phase 2. So all the drugs we are working on have already been in human beings. Okay. Phase 2 is where you take a small portion of the population and you're trying to get a signal of efficacy. And phase 3 is a large-scale study conducted to prove efficacy and safety across a multi-ethnic group. Now, for vaccine trials, it's very tricky to prove efficacy because you have to know whether your vaccine works or not. So I give the example of the phase 3 clinical trial that Pfizer ran for the COVID vaccine. Everyone knows about that vaccine. So they vaccinated 40,000 people around the world. 20,000 of them received the active vaccine that Pfizer were working on. 20,000 received a dummy drug, a placebo. It looked exactly the same. None of the physicians, none of the patients knew who was getting what. After about 6 months, out of the 40,000 people, 200 were infected with COVID. And when they unblinded the trial at the end of its life, they found that out of the 200 that were infected, 180 were in the placebo group, so they received the dummy drug, and 20 had received the active medication. So that's how Pfizer were able to determine that they were able to reduce the infectivity rate from 180 to 20. So the vaccine worked. Okay? But there's a lot of risks with that because you have to wait for enough people to become infected naturally to be able to show a statistical significance difference between the dummy group and the active group. So you have to kind of rely on nature for people to get exposed to a certain virus. And because the same concept is true for any other vaccine trials, whether it's flu or RSV or anything else. Okay, so you are kind of relying on nature for people to mix together and get exposed to a virus and become infected to be able to show a difference. What we do is we take that luck component out. So if we were to run the same trial, we would get 400 people, not 40,000 people. We will give 200 of them the vaccine, 200 will get the dummy drug, and then 30 days later, we would expose all 400 people to the virus. Okay. Then, if the vaccine works, in that group, you expect to see a lower number of people being infected. In the placebo group, you still get the higher number of infectivity. But because, generally speaking, when we do this experiment, this trial, we get about 60-70% infectivity rate, we are effectively creating our own patients for these vaccine trials. Okay? And we can do this for several different viruses. We call them challenge models. We have 11 different challenge models currently active all of these can be used to determine whether your drug works or not. Now, there's some limitations to what we do. Okay, one, for example, is that you still have to run the phase 3 trial even after you've done the challenge trial, because any regulatory body would want a patient population that's diverse from an ethnic group and from diversity from international countries. Secondly, because what we do is very specialized, we don't expose tens of thousands of people to the vaccine. You need to do the larger study to get safety data. Our goal, challenge trial, is to see whether the drug works, and that's it. Okay? For larger scale safety trials, you have to run the phase 3 trial. But the key advantages of what we do is that you're able to de-risk your phase 3 program. The phase 3 program costs over $100 million. So by doing a challenge trial, which costs about £5 million and takes 7-8 months, you can tell whether your drug works or not before you take the risk and go into the larger program. Okay, so this shows you graphically what I've just basically said. So you can see in the placebo arm, the infection is higher, it lasts longer. In the vaccine, if the vaccine is effective in the vaccine arm, you expect to see a shorter duration of symptoms and also lower infectivity rates. Some of the key benefits I've lighted here. So you de-risk your phase 3 program. Biotech companies typically are very small. They don't run the phase 3 programs. What they do is they basically either out-license to a big pharma or they raise more funding. A human challenge trial is the way to do that. So you do the human challenge trial, show that your drug is effective. On the back of that, you raise funding or you sell to a big pharma. Reviral is one UK biotech that ran one human challenge trial and sold itself to Pfizer for $500 million. They had no other data showing that their drug worked except for one challenge trial. We've also seen the FDA back human challenge trials. So 5 of our clients have got what's called fast track designation, which basically means they save up to 2 years in the regulatory review timelines to get approval for their drug. So financially, I'm sure you're all interested in numbers here. So you can see our revenue has grown year on year. Not only that, we've also been able to improve our margins year on year. We are guiding towards £62 million in revenue. We haven't announced our EBITDA guidance, but we expect for it to be healthy. We've changed our sales strategy recently. We've also changed our operational management in the sense that we are now running multiple studies at the same time, and I will tell you why that's important. At the end of last year, we had a very healthy cash position of £37 million, and our order book was around £80 million. This is signed work that we currently have and which we will be doing for the foreseeable future. We have over 90% of the 2024's revenue already signed up. One of the key things we do, and we are the only company in the world that does this, what we call end-to-end human challenge trial program conduction. So the human challenge trial starts with actually isolating the virus. So we actually have an internal program. It's a family and friends program. So if any of the employees or the family, they get sick with the infection, we give them a kit similar to what you used to take for COVID kits, test kits. So we have one of those, and we take a swab sample for that person, and we take that sample, we basically grow it internally, we optimize it, we sequence it to make sure it's the right virus, we test it in the lab to make sure it's infective, then we grow it in a GMP facility so it's ready for human clinical use. The next thing we do is we basically characterize it, which effectively means that we determine what dose is the best dose to use to give us a good number of infections in a healthy patient population. And then after that, we use it in a human challenge trial. Now, these different steps can only be done under one single roof at hVIVO. Nobody else in the world does this. I don't know if I mentioned already, but 90% of commercial human challenge trials are done by us. So we are the world leader in doing human challenge trials. The biggest obstacle to running clinical trials at the moment is patient recruitment. Okay, 80% of the trials that are delayed because of poor patient recruitment. It's very difficult to persuade people to take part in clinical trials for a number of reasons. We have a brand called FluCamp, which we utilize mostly to the 18 to the 28 age group. So if you're on TikTok or if you're on Instagram, and if you put in FluCamp, you'll see us everywhere. We have 300,000 people on our database. Last year, we screened 17,000 healthy volunteers. And by screening, I mean these individuals came into one of our screening centers. We took a blood sample and we screened their blood to see whether they are suitable to take part in our clinical trials. It's very hard to get into one of our clinical trials. I worked out that it's easier to get into Oxford University than into one of our clinical trials. Because what happens is if you had flu, that's in the past 2-3 years even, you have immunity against flu. So when you come into one of our clinical trials and we give you the flu virus, you will not become infected because you have inherent antibodies that will fight infection. So you're really no use to us because we want you to become infected. So we do what's called serosuitability, which takes out a huge portion of the population. So it's very hard to do this. But the key thing is that each step of the process is a revenue generation step. So when we, in our budgets and our proposals to our clients, when they tell us they want X number of subjects to be inoculated, to be infected, we work backwards and we have an algorithm to see at the top how many people do we need on our website registered to get to the number of screening. We have visit 1, we have screening visit 2, and then into inoculation. So it's very, very hard. In fact, 30% of our budgets that go out to our clients are dedicated to recruiting these patients. So it's a very, very big job. If you are bored, please go on FluCamp, go on TikTok and put FluCamp. You'll see people in the quarantine, they're posting daily diaries about what they're eating and what they're, how they're loving or maybe not loving the experience. So our order book, this is the key driver for me, probably the most important forward-looking driver. So this is the contracted work we have at the moment. One of the key differences between us and almost every other CRO is that we, like other CROs, we charge an upfront payment. So on signature of a new contract, we typically charge 15 to 20% as an upfront payment. But the difference between us and every other CRO is that it's non-refundable. So if the client was to cancel that contract, okay, we keep that fee. And the reason why we do this is because we guarantee the clients on signature of contract a time slot in our quarantine facility. So effectively, it's like, imagine you're organizing a wedding at some faraway place and you want to book a whole floor in the hotel. And when you sign that contract, you have to pay a deposit. And if for some unforeseen circumstance you cancel the wedding, you won't get that money back, okay? But what we do is that we do double book the same bedrooms to different customers, okay? So as a contingency, if one client does cancel, we lose that revenue, but we gain the upfront fee, but we try and put additional clients into the same facility at the same time slot. So you can see the order book is pretty healthy. We've had a very good sales year in 2023. Some of the larger contracts are highlighted on the right, but you can see the longevity of the order book is going well into 2025. And this is the longest visibility we've seen. You have to remember, our strength is almost kind of our weakness. Our strength is that we run these trials in a very short time of space. That effectively reduces your visibility going forward. A phase 3 trial, for example, lasts for 3 years. So you sign one today, you know you have revenue coming in for the next 36 months. But our whole key sell for human challenge trial is we will tell you whether your drug works or not within an 8-9 month period. So effectively, our trials have to be shorter. But they are very revenue intensive. A little bit more breakdown on our order book. So you can see on the left-hand side, we have a very good spread of customer. We don't have a customer concentration issue here right now. A and B are big pharma. They have large pipelines. Both of those clients have done multiple challenge trials with us, and they are current clients, and we hope they will come back for more. And the rest are mid-pharma and biotechs. In the middle, we're showing here the breakdown between pharma and biotech. Again, you see this is a pretty good spread between the two. So we get the big pharma will come in for repeat business, and the biotechs. Like I said, biotechs do not have large pipelines. They come, they do the trial. If it works, they get sold to big pharma. If it fails, that's normally kind of the end for the biotech company. And on the challenge agent, remember a challenge agent is a virus that we have characterized. You can see we've got a very good spread of the different challenge agents we're using. So we're not relying on one typical virus for all of our order books. So, and we're continuously looking at this and continually increasing the variety of challenge agents we are using. And remember, we can't do an Ebola challenge trial, just for those of you maybe adventurous thinking, what can you do? So what we do is we do challenge trials with viruses that have a short, acute effect and no long-term impacts on the individual. This is my favorite slide of the whole presentation. So I'll quickly explain this. So this is the number of people we are going to inoculate per month for the next 12 months that we are already contracted to do. And the different colors shows that we are doing different virus challenges. And this is important because historically we used to run one challenge trial at a given time. So if someone was to come in and we screen them for the one trial we are running, let's say we're running a flu trial, if they are net zero suitable, they go home, we can't use them. But now because we're running multiple trials, we can use the same blood sample to screen them for trial A, and if they fail trial A, trial B, and trial C. So effectively we are improving the conversion rate, so more people can go into clinical trials than ever before. On top of that, each client gets charged for each screening visit. So effectively, one individual could be 3 different revenue effects, right? So basically, because we're screening the blood 3 times, we get 3 times the revenue. So this basically improves our margin. It's one of the reasons why we're seeing the margins, EBITDA margins improve. But also, it should also improve the utilization of our facility, because you can get more people into our quarantine, because we are running multiple challenge trials at the same time with different viruses. So we're very lucky to be moving into Canary Wharf. Canary Wharf used to be the major financial hub. It now will be becoming a life science hub. Even the government's giving it money for leveling up, which I don't understand, but hey, Canary Wharf is in big need. We have a new facility, 50 beds. There'll be CL3, which basically means that we can run COVID challenge trials in those, or dengue virus studies. So CL3 is a very high level of infection control. Our current facilities are CL2, so these are much higher specs. The outpatient facility, the headquarters will also move there. We will have an opening there hopefully some point in July. We're actually, as of tomorrow is the handover day of one of the floors. So one of the floors is already completed, the 50 beds. But the great thing about this is that 90% of the costs for the fit out and the move are being covered by our clients. So we have a couple of clients that demanded their trials to be done faster than we could have done. They said, look, what would it take for us to run these trials faster? We gave them a number, and so our goal was to put up a temporary facility to meet those needs. But considering the amount of money we received and the fact that we were able to do this, get a very good deal at Canary Wharf, we will be opening this up in the coming months. We're also investing heavily in automation. So we have a new laboratory information management system called LIMS. So effectively, this is, if you look at, I don't know whether you've seen a test tube with a barcode on it, so you track the barcode and you can do the sample management that way, which is very easy. Our volunteer management system, as I mentioned, patient recruitment is a huge issue for the industry, but we are using Salesforce as a CRM to basically manage the volunteer journey. We've also improved the way we communicate with our volunteers. And the last thing we will be doing is initiating another implementation process for IT, so e-consent. So we have to, of course, get informed consent from everybody. This will be all electronic. All the medical records will also be electronic. So these are steps there. Some of them start in 2023, some will start in 2024. So we have a target to get to £100 million in revenue by 2028. 85 million of that will be through organic growth, 50 million through M&A activity. We, of course, continue to grow the human challenge trial we are conducting. This is our core business, and it's very important, and we will not lose focus of that. But in addition to that, we also perform some ancillary services to basically cater for the human challenge trial. So patient recruitment, as I mentioned, the clinical trial consulting, the laboratory analysis. But we think that we can also target these services to certain clients as standalone services. And that's something we will be building on. We'll also be looking for the right M&A target. We have £37 million in cash. So this is something we will be actively pursuing, but only for the right target, something that we can bolt on to what we have at the moment. I think this is my final slide. So hopefully you've heard the investment case already. This is just a summary. So our financial metrics for the last 2 years have been second to none. We've seen significant growth in revenue, EBITDA, cash, and order book. So all of that looks very, very good. We've also shown that we're able to convert our order book into revenue at a very good margin. I think that's key, and that's something we've seen in the last 2 years. And we are continuing investing in the new facility as well as the automation to continue to improve our margins. The new facility is actually 2 weeks ahead of time, so which is great. We'll have a bigger lab capacity, and this is one of the reasons why we want to target standalone clients for lab work. We have new challenge models. One of the things we're looking at is the next generation of vaccines. So all of you know, most of the COVID vaccines all of them are so for injections. But the next phase of vaccine could be an oral vaccine or an inhaled vaccine, and those all could be tested through the human challenge model. Finally, 62 million pounds in revenue guided for 2024, 100 million by 2028. We are looking to pay a nominal dividend this year, and that's your lot. Thank you very much.